All right, so I've twined or paired 3 rows. Here's my beginning, and I measured the base is about almost 4 inches. It's a little less than 4 inches. Because my spokes are not very long, I only made 15-inch spokes. This is going to be a very small, short basket. But you know, as for a beginner, it's one that you can finish, which is always satisfying. And if you have the material, you can always make the spokes like 20 inches instead of 15, and then it's easier to cut off extra material than to try and add something on. So, but just for demonstration purposes, I wanted to show you the smaller basket. Also, I just wanted to say, don't forget to take breaks and stretch your hands and roll your shoulders, because you don't want to get really tight or hurt yourself doing this. Okay, so we are going to do now what's called the upsetting, or the setup of the spokes. This is when the basket starts to come up. Hopefully you've been able to keep this fairly flat. And now I like to, before I do this, I actually soak the reed fairly well for at least 2 or 3 minutes, because we're going to start bending them. And I'll just give it another spritz here, just to make sure it's really nice and wet. It's a pain in the butt if they break. You can just replace it if it breaks. Just stick a new spoke in there. It's not a big deal, but it's just easier if they don't. Okay, so here's my beginning. And I'm just continuing to twine, except now I'm going to start working from the outside of the basket and bending these as I go. So you're going to bend them. The twining is going to hold them in place, but you want to bend them up. And we're going to keep twisting in the same direction. So I was twisting towards me. And you can also see kind of space. You want to look at the space between. Again, we're trying to kind of keep them somewhat. I'm just bending as I go, somewhat evenly spaced. Twist. Around. And I find holding it against the table makes it easier. And as we get all the way around, okay, twist. You'll see that they are starting to bend up. They won't be perfectly straight up even after the first row. It takes a couple rows to really bend. I guess I'm sort of gentle in my bending. I guess you could be more radical. And we're going to push it down. We also want the spacing here to be the same. Now, my weavers are starting to get short, so I'm going to have to add in a weaver. And I thought I'd show that to you again, the whole overlapping process. When the reed is wet, it's pretty flexible. So even if, say, this starts to bend a little bit while I'm doing this, I push my thumbs into it. But you'll be able to flatten that out later, as long as it's not too, it's not completely curved. That's also can be adjusted at the end when you finish your basket. Bending, bending, bending. weavers, basket makers often have a saying, like a mantra they keep in their head. Like for me, this one's twist towards me, so I remember to twist in the right direction, in the same direction. You'll just get a different pattern if you do a mistake and twist the other way. This way, though, the pattern will stay evenly with all these bumps, you know, like a bump going over and then a space, a bump, a space, a bump, a space. That's the pattern. Twist towards me, behind, in front. Okay, so we're working on the outside, and to do an overlap, add a weaver. This is getting too short. So if I twist towards me, this one will come to the inside. I've got this one on the outside, and I've got another about 40-inch long piece. 3 feet to 4 feet is what I find the most easy to handle. Otherwise it starts getting caught and twisted. And so here I'm just overlapping. When I say overlap, it's just going in the same spot as the short piece. This is on the inside now. Okay, this bottom one is twisting towards me and around. And we're folding up. I know it's a lot of things to remember. This one again is too short. I'm going to add a new weaver. Sometimes you wish you had 3 hands. Okay, this one's coming out. It's too short. So overlapping, this one comes out, twisting towards me, this one goes in. Now these ends will be on the inside. You can always just kind of check like this. We've made it all the way around. This overlap looks a little short. I can just pull that in a little bit. It's easier to cut than to have them too short. It's kind of a rule of thumb. Twist towards me and around. Okay, so we're starting our second row. So we really do want these to start coming in as much farther. Again, you can take your straight edge to push this down if you want to go through check. Here's a flat edge screwdriver. You could just also use that as well as a flat tool. Here's our overlaps on the inside. Here's the outside. Row 2, really starting to bend this now. Oh, I can see this one started to break. Well, it didn't completely break, so I'm just going to leave it. Since there's 2 spokes, it makes the basket sturdier. If I had broken 1 spoke, I'd want to fix that. I'd put in a new spoke there. But since there's 2, it'll be strong enough and it won't get pulled out. Plus, because it's a smaller basket, it's not going to pull out. You'll have a rim on this. Okay, we're really bending them in. Sometimes your reed's going to get twisted, so every once in a while you've got to untwist that. Okay, we're twisting towards me and around. So we're just going to continue up, pushing these down into the center, and that'll be the side of your basket. And like, here's an example of one. You can see how it doesn't, it doesn't just go completely straight up. There is a curve here. You can also, our basket won't be quite as deep as this. This is 4 inches, but you can also use this different color and make a rim, a stripe. And then the last video I'm going to do for you is we'll show you how to do the rim of the basket.